Everybody, welcome back. And in last week's video, we saw the real sinful nation of Korah to rebel against Moses. We understand why he does this. But this week, we're going to continue what actually happened in the Numbers book 16th chapter and what happened to Korah due to what he had done. So when Moses heard about the complaint what Korah had made with 250 Israel leaders to rebel against, in the 4th verse of Numbers 16th chapter, we can read what happened or what his reaction was to this response as a rebellion. So we can read in the 4th verse, it says, when Moses heard it, he fell on his face. So he collapsed and fell down face down, which is quite unusual for someone to fell face down, because we can see how much it affects him though. Because a normal person would fall down backwards normally. So if a person falls down face down like this, it's most likely to a severe thing and it badly affects them. But we're going to carry on reading now. Let's read 5, 6, and 7. And he said to Korah and all his company, in this morning the Lord will show who he is his and who is holy, and he will bring him near to him, he says. Do this, take censers, Korah and all his company, put fire in them, then put incense on them before the Lord tomorrow. And the man whom the Lord chooses shall be the Holy One. You have gone too far, sons of Levi. So now Moses surrenders this issue to God, and he clearly told Korah and 250 people, you're going too far, not to me. This was their complaint against Moses because of the jealous nature. But Moses understood they're going too away from God for what they're doing and his plan. And then we can carry on where it says, in the 8th and 9th verse, it says, 8th to 11th verse, sorry. And Moses said to Korah, hear now, you sons of Levi, is it too a small thing for you that the God of Israel has separated you from a congregation of Israel to bring you near to himself, to do service in the tabernacle of the Lord, and to stand before the congregation to minister to them, and that he has brought you near him, and all your brothers, sons of Levi, with you, and you seek the priesthood also. Therefore it is against the Lord that you and all your company have gathered together. And what is Aaron that you grumble against him? Moses clearly explained their privilege that they had gained, and their desire to exalt them to gain the priesthood is a grumble against God, what they're doing right now. And not God, not against Aaron. So as Moses said to everyone assembled before God, he says to see his acceptance and to show who's holy and who is holy. He's trying to say what they're doing is wrong in a way. And he's saying that you also have the privilege as being the Levites by being the ministers of the tabernacle. But we can see what's going on now. Now we can read the 20th verse to 24th verse in this to understand more clearly about this. And the Lord spoke to Moses and to Aaron, saying, separate yourselves from among this congregation, that I may consume them in a moment. And they fall on their faces and said, O God, the God of all the spirits of all flesh, shall man sin, and will you be angry with all the congregation? And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, say to the congregation, get away from the dwelling of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. So, again, Moses stood there for them against God's judgment, and was passed on for Korah and 2 others who stood with him. One is Dathan and one is Abiram. So they never listened to Moses. But we can continue what happens though after this, because Moses doesn't want one man's sin to cause all of these 250 people to go. So he's pleading with God. But God is saying these 3, except these 3. But we can carry on reading 28th verse, where it says, and Moses said, hereby you shall know that the Lord has sent me to do all these works, and that it has not been of my own accord. If these men die, or as all men die, or if they are visited by the fate of all mankind, then the Lord has not sent me. Moses, we can see here, wants to insist this is all God's plan, not mine, and to prove that God showed very different punishment to them. But now we can read carry on, though, from 30th to 34th verse to understand what after this happened. Because now we can see that Moses is trying to explain this is God's plan, and he has showed a very different punishment to you all. And we can see that this is not what Moses plans, basically, in a way. And this is God's plan, and he proved that God showed a different punishment. We can read this. Because this is not Moses' plan, we understand that here. So let's read it. But if the Lord creates something new, and the ground opens its mouth and swallows them up with all that belongs to them, and they go down alive into Sheol, then you shall know that these men have despised the Lord. And as soon as he had finished speaking all these words, the ground split apart, we can see here. And the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them up with their households and all the people who belonged to Korah and all the goods. So they all belonged to them and went down alive into Sheol, and earth closed over them, and they perished from the midst assembly. And all Israel who were there around them fled at their cry, for they said, lest the earth swallows us up. Then we can see it says finally, and fire came out of the Lord and consumed 250 men, offering the incense. So we can see in the end what happens in the end. This is the end of Korah, along with this corrupted people. Because of Korah's rebellion and his jealousy towards Moses, 250 men offering the incense had lost their lives in this. And even though Moses and Aaron pleaded to God, this is what God's will was, and God's punishment for what Korah's decision was, to make a rebellion against them. Even though they didn't understand that Levites were given a privilege to be ministers of the tabernacle. So I will see you next week. See you then. Bye.